Welcome to the Dorky readings and bloopers, featuring Blood Phoenix Rebirth, first book of the Broken World series. Chapter 12. Hollywood entered the room and circled around us. I pushed Bowden behind me and fell into a crouch. With leprechaun blood flowing through me, a special connection formed between the two of us. Different from the glamour. It made me protective and possessive of him. It allowed me to know the whereabouts of my leprechaun without having to look at him, which helped. But it did some crazy shit to my vision. I focused on the visitor, as if looking through a scope. He appeared in the center of a vibrating circle that changed colors and waves. Hollywood pulled off the scariness and intimidation without menace. But that fact didn't keep my body from crawling with tension and whatever extra I'd noticed before with James. Power. This dude possessed enormously more power than I did. Responding to my fear, the colored waves changed faster until they ran white. He stopped circling and approached. I roared and bared my fangs, surprised by how animalistic I sounded. He laughed and snatched my face in his grip. Surprise registered on his features, before returning to blank smugness. You've glamoured her, haven't you? And you fed on his blood. He turned my face back and forth. How odd. Hollywood leaned in like he might kiss me, but the air shifted when he breathed in my scent. What did he smell? My vanilla soaps? Bowden's blood? Did he smell my power? I growled. He kissed my air and backed away. I have never encountered such an interesting combination of aromas. At a safe distance, he shed his scariness, as if it were some kind of test. I forced myself to relax and pulled up from my crouch. Your smell comes in layers. First is the vampire, which smells like cinnamon and nutmeg. On top of that is the glamour, which smells like your leprechaun there. He waved his hand at Bowden with a dismissive gesture, pacing. But then, strangely enough, I smell human on you, like butchered meat. Not the undertone most vampires possess. Finally, there is something I just cannot make out. It's exotic, like a peat fire. He stopped pacing to look at me. Prickles sprouted up my spine. What is it? I stiffened, muscles tight for defense again. Why should I tell you? I don't even know who you are. Ah, very true. I must apologize. I am usually sent out on jobs where, well, I don't need such niceties. Hollywood barely looked old enough to have a job. Do I want to know what your usual jobs are? No. He stepped closer, held out his hand, palm up, and half bowed. I am Felix Gray, once the human foster brother of our queen, Fea, and now hers to call upon and command. The way he said it sounded like he was some kind of knight. Scared to meet his gaze, I focused on the other features of his face. I had no way of knowing if vampires can control each other in real life, like they can in a lot of stories. Felix had a sharp angled chin, with a goatee. His nose was too thin at the top and too wide at the bottom, but he seemed to make it work. Kind of like Edward, with his misshapen Neanderthal look. I focused squarely on his wide, thin mouth. He waited for my hand, and I gave it hesitantly. Felix's fingers swallowed mine. As he lifted my hand, he pulled it back and exposed my wrist, and gave it a gentle nip. I gasped at the contrast to Bowden's soft, suffocating, and sexy influence. Felix had a strong, harsh, and prickly power, like a giant spider crawling up my skin. What could he do with that? His tongue swiped against my wrist before he dropped me. Bowden's arms wrapped around my shoulders, and his breath blew in my ear. The rainbow waves in my vision burst with white stars and pulled back to expose more of the vibrating circle. When he touched me, my vision cleared, but my body squirmed. Bowden put his hand in my hip. Safe for later. I quivered against him, but kept my focus on Felix. No way to enjoy the leprechaun's touches or his body with the vampire present. Something about you is truly remarkable, which means you have great potential. I should bring you to our training facility and see what you're capable of. See if you can become a true vampire. He wanted a reaction, but I didn't give him one. Not that I didn't wonder. I mean, what the fuck, wasn't dying enough? There are a few others, like you, that have an additional element to them. Cryokinesis, telekinesis, telepathy. Others are stronger, better warriors, and some have other skills. Why don't you tell me yours? Piss off. A harsh crackle burst from Felix. Such a cliché bad guy. Did Fea not have anyone better to send? Bone spoke in my ear. No, Rhea. Oh, but I really want to. I mean, I really, really want to. Felix held his hands out and beckoned me toward him. Show me what you've got. Bowden held me in place. I am serious. Do not start fight. I think it's too late. Let me go. Besides, my insides finally burned with a different kind of need. The need to kick Hollywood's ass. No, Bowden said. Let it go, leprechaun. Let's see what this newborn has. I am 23 years old, your ass holiness. I pushed at Bowden's grip. And I have been 17 for 221 years. You couldn't be more than a week old. When do you start counting? Smiling at me, he said, when you wake up. I stopped, a hazy tiredness enveloping me. It's only been 2.5 days. 2.5 long days. I told him as much. Really? And you want to take me on? Felix seemed genuinely amused. I peeled Bowden's arms from around me with great difficulty. Once freed, I kept from his grasp and circled Felix to put distance between us all. Felix seemed to find me comical, but Bowden looked grim. No more playing, Mr. Leprechaun. I centered myself as quickly as possible before I attacked Felix. My foot swung up to his shoulder, and the kick sent him spinning to the far wall by the kitchen door. He didn't fall completely, but he slumped before he stood and brushed imaginary dirt off the front of his shirt. Good kick. He didn't take any type of fighting stance, standing there like a gentleman waiting for his date. You won't land another. I inched toward him, but he didn't strike. His stance sparked a bit of unease. My stomach squeezed too tightly. Feigning a kick, I pushed my palm up under his chin to stun him. His head whipped back. As I went to hit him in the base of his ribcage to break his solar plexus, he did 2 things. First, he grabbed my wrist and pulled me stumbling into him. And second, he swung me around and pushed me face first into the wall with an arm behind my back. Felix leaned into me, pressed his lips to my ear. I see you've had some training. Kickboxing, am I right? With my cheek pressed against the cool white wall, I nodded. Really didn't like this guy. It's too bad this fight isn't a fair one. You might have won. You should always remember that a fair fight is a lost fight. Felix drove me further against the wall, twisting my arm harder, sending flares of pain up into my shoulder. I understand why he hid you, your maker. What it is that you call him, James? It's because you're a downright pretty little thing with a pretty little attitude. To bring you to the training facility would make you fresh meat. I know he wouldn't want that, seeing as he can't claim you himself. You see, he's already been claimed. A sharp stabbing cut through me. What if I don't want to be claimed? Felix shrugged against me, his voice soured. You can't always get what you want. He shoved hard against my back, making me cry out as long slices of pain licked at my shoulder. You have outgrown your welcome, Bowden said. I bucked against the wall to fight for my freedom, barely gaining an inch. Yeah? He shoved me again, but I only whimpered. You think you can make me leave? I dropped my weight to throw him off as Bowden reached for him. The teamwork made me feel more like Leia than Peach, even if I wasn't quite saving myself yet. I marveled in my momentary freedom before Bowden scooped me into his arms. The look on Felix's face frightened me, but it disappeared, along with the house, the streets, and the city. This dude possessed a normless... No. Really? Stock much?